Mr. Gonzalez, how are you today?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Good, thank you. And so what would you like for people to call you?
Raul. Oh. That's fine. That's perfect.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. I do want to start with one of the most important questions that all of Arlington residents would like to know.
Okay.
Are you a Dallas Cowboys fan?
Oh my gosh. I don't know if you know about me, but I graduated from high school in El Paso in 1980, and I moved here for the Cowboys. I mean, that's an actual Cowboy fan. I used to come down here. When I was in high school, I'd fly in for a Cowboy game at Texas Stadium and stay at the Tom Penny Inn just to be the Cowboys. And I always said, you know, when I go to college, I want to go somewhere in Dallas, Fort Worth. Okay. And my counselor said, why don't you go to SMU? And the famous last words I said was, I've never heard of SMU. Yeah. And so, yeah, I picked UTA. In case it didn't work out, I could transfer back to UTEP.
So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I was born and raised in El Paso. Worked at a very young age. I was raised by my mom and dad. I'm the oldest of three. I've worked since I was 14 years old. I've loved working. Moved here in 1980 to be near my Cowboys and went to UTA. I was broke in college. It was tough. So I went to college and worked for a law firm. Started off making $3 an hour, and that was in 1983. And this is the year 2000. I'm still there. I run the office and met my wife while working at the Texas Rangers. I was her boss. We've been married 34 years, and we raised 3 kids. They've all graduated from Summit High School and are successful adults, which is exciting.
Wow, that's great. So what was your major at? You said you went to UTA.
I was a BBA management. Really, it was funny. It was 5.5 years I was in school, and I needed to get out. Like I said, I was broke. So I went to my counselor and said, I got to get out. What can I get out with right away? And she looked at my transcript and said, you know what? All you need is one more class, and you're out in management. I said, yep, that's it. Let's go.
Yeah. So how would you describe yourself growing up?
Dependable. I never really was everybody says I was not a kid. I was always adult. I've always been the oldest, always been mature. I got that from my mom and dad. My dad's like that. I respect my elders. Family is important. Church is important. So you just respected the family. I never did any drug because I really believe my dad when he would say, if I ever catch you doing drugs, he goes, I'm not going to call the police. Or he goes, I'm not going to get mad at you. I'm just going to call the police and get you arrested. And I really believe that. And so it kept me from doing anything. So, yeah, I lived in a good environment. And, like I said, I've been working hard. So
what is something that you would say to yourself now that you're a little bit older as to your childhood self?
Be a child, enjoy being young. Like I told you earlier, it's like, enjoy being who you are. You're always wishing your life away. And I speak that through experience. I always want to, I was ready to go to high school. I was ready to go to college. And all of a sudden I'm out and you're like, okay, now you're at this point. And you need to enjoy the moment that you have, whatever it is. You want to get older. And when you get older, you lose family members, everything else. And so, you know what? Just enjoy every moment. And I did enjoy it, but I was one of those guys that I want to move on, and excited about doing all that.
Yeah, it's fun growing up, but
it is
until you have to pay bills. So
yeah, and then you start losing your hair. That's another one.
Yeah. So would you describe yourself as a leader?
Yes, I mean, leaders lead by example. I work hard, so that's how I'm a leader. You got to walk the walk, and that's what I do. My law firm, I'm cleaning kitchens, I'm putting dishes in the dishwasher, I'm emptying trash cans. You got to do what it takes, and it's important. My dad taught me at a young age also, you got to respect everybody, whether it's the custodial staff, the nutritionists at the school districts, counselors. We're all bus drivers. My mom was a bus driver, so it's all together. So, being a leader, I think you lead by example. And integrity. What do you do when people aren't looking? That's what people don't realize. A lot of young people, including my son, doesn't realize that people are still looking, but he thinks, they're not. But that's the most important part of being a person is your integrity.
Yes. So how do you think that your leadership experiences that you've had throughout your life, how can that translate to city council?
Well, I've been real physically conservative, and I really believe that listening to people, respecting people is important. So my wanting to give back is important. I was diagnosed with prostate cancer at age 43. I'm 58 now. My dad was diagnosed at 62. He was gone 6 months after he was diagnosed. Then I was diagnosed 9 months after that. So that really changed my life dramatically, saying I got to give back now. But I believe the way I think, I work for a law firm, so lawyers are really good at finding problems. I'm good at finding solutions. So when I present something, anything, I already think, okay, what are they going to find the negative of? And so that helps a lot, you know. And people they find it's easy to throw gasoline or throw a rock or whatever, but it's harder to find solutions. And that's what I bring to city council. Being on the school board, you know, I've been on the school board 10 years, 2 years as president. We're physically conservative. We've been recognized in the state of Texas for high accountability. We're rated as one of the top school districts in Texas. You know, I've got the proven skills and experience that I can step right into city council, which is important because of term limits. You know, the person that's coming in, you know, I'm only going to have 5.5 years to be on the school board. I mean, on city council, so I've got to step right in. And I think I know with my experience, I'll be able to do the job.
Yes. So, what motivated you to get into local government? You said that you're on the Arlington School Board, Education School Board.
No, I'm on the Mansfield School Board. Okay. 40% of the kids in Mansfield ISD live in Arlington. People don't realize that. And that's why I got involved, because people didn't recognize the 14,000 students living in the city of Arlington attending Mansfield schools. And so I really started off in East Arlington with the Sam Houston Renewal, or the East Arlington Renewal, Sam Houston Feed and Feed program, ran all those schools that didn't have PTAs, and I've always given back. My dad grew up in the projects in El Paso. He grew up without a father, started working at age 14, so, you know, my dad was very blessed. He became the postmaster with just a high school education, became one of the top district managers. So we were always taught, you've got to give back, and that's what it was about. And one day I was over there just talking to somebody, and Robert Rivera, who eventually ended up running for city council, said, when are you going to run? And I said, I want to go back to El Paso. He says, well, you've been here 28 years. Why don't you do it here? And 12 years later, here I am.
Yeah. Can you describe what is physically conservative?
You know, when you're in school, when you're a school board member of city council, that is taxpayer money. There's a difference between wants and needs. Okay, you can't get everything you want. Everybody wants to have a big house. Everybody wants a big car, but you can't afford it. And so the same thing, you've got to run a school district and a city council the same way. It's taxpayer money. So you've got to look at the needs. Like for school districts, it's easy. It's about the kids. You've got to pay the teachers to keep the good teachers there, to keep the kids. You know, everything you do, it's what's about the kids. You know, yeah, you wish you had this and that or whatever, but you just got to do it with the money that you have. You know, we don't go into debt in my household. Law firm, same thing. We've been around 60 years at my law firm. If we don't have money, we don't get paid. I mean, we make sure the staff get paid. We make sure all the bills get paid. But if the money's not there, I don't get paid. And that's just the way it is. And that's the way you should run government or school districts or whatever. And like I said, one of the things that we did was when we built schools and the citizens vote to build those schools, we were able to refinance their bonds at a lower interest rate. And we saved like $152 million. And most school districts and city councils would just use that money for something else. We didn't, because the voters chose to build A, B, and C, and instead of building D and F, we gave the money back to the taxpayers and lowered the tax rate. That's what fiscal responsibility is. It's not my money, it's our money. I'm a taxpayer too. Mm-hmm.
So what is your stance on Proposition A, both points, the one that wants to increase the sales tax and for the funds going to?
Well, I'm glad Proposition A for the sales tax is going to the people. I mean, that's important. That's critical. People think it's another tax, and it is another tax. It is another tax. There are some questions about it. You know, if it's used the way it's supposed to be used, I think it's good. You know, but just like everything else, you've got to make sure that, you know, whoever's involved. I've already insisted, you know, if this passes, and I don't think it's going to pass just because there's too much on the ballot, and I just, you know, that's my personal opinion. But if it does pass, I promise I will make sure that we don't have somebody that's going to line their pockets, no broker, no developer, no former mayor, no former city council, it's somebody that has no vested interest that can do it. I mean, I'd be one of those people because I don't own property. All I own is a house here, but I will be on city council. I can't do that. But that's the kind of person you have to find. Yes. And if it's used the right way, it's supposed to help small business. And one of the things that we have in Arlington, can I continue?
Yes.
South Arlington, we have the most undeveloped land in Arlington, and we have to be smart how we develop that. Being on the Mansfield School Board, I have seen Grand Prairie and Mansfield I'm seeing their clock. They're pointing their I apologize. Where I see that they're getting a lot of industry because they have green space. That quarter cent allows us to be able to knock down buildings that are just sitting there, to be able to bring these companies, so we can bring people like Hewlett Packard, Nokia, high-paying jobs, not another Walmart, not another Amazon, jobs that people can stay here and make a good living and raise the properties, and they pay most of the taxes. Let the business pay the taxes, not the personal property owners.
Yes. So do you aspire maybe one day to work at the federal or the state level?
The only reason I would do the state is just for public education. There's just a lot of misconception. Public education to me is the great equalizer. All education is important, but you see all these other charter schools and everything, which are great. There's nothing wrong with it. They're getting the same money as public schools, and they don't have the same accountability as public schools. In other words, they can hire their relatives to be a principal and get paid a lot of money. They can hire their relatives to build a school, and you can't do that with public education. Our public schools in Mansfield, our administrative costs are 3.89% of the total income. Some other schools are 8-9%. Charter schools are even high as 10-12% that goes to the principal and all that, and that's not the way it should be. It's about the kids.
Yes, for sure. So moving into some more community-based questions, you talked a little bit about the small business. How do small businesses impact our local government or economy?
Well, that's what it comes down to. I mean, that's all I support is, and you won't see me at a Chili's, you won't see me at any of these restaurants. I like to go to Bigotes, I like to go to Ranchito, I like to go to this barbecue place that just opened up. And that's important because that's the everyday person that, the small business owner is the backbone of the city. It really is, and that's what gives the flavor. I'm from El Paso, and that's all you have is local-owned restaurants, and I grew up doing that, and I think it's important because, they're providing jobs for the local, those people live here, they have their house, so you've got to support, the people themselves, not the big corporations where they have big owners making big bucks and all the people doing the work. Let's support the local, don't get me wrong, I like some of those places, but you won't see me at those restaurants,
Yes. So how can City Council help the needs of small businesses around Arlington?
Well, obviously listening to them, and I guess one of the things that I've noticed is knowing very small businesses. Right now, the city, and I'm not talking about City Council, but the city, there's a lot of red tape. So when you're trying to build a restaurant or something, it takes a long time, and it's just a lot of, and I understand, but it's just, when I talk to other people that have been to other cities, they say Arlington's one of the most difficult cities to get something built. A good example is El Ranchito. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's in South Arlington. They have a restaurant in Oak Cliff. Excellent restaurant. It's an icon. They decided to come to Arlington, where the Buck and Loons is out South Cooper. Took 2 years for them to get opened up because of all the red tape. And that's just, and I called Mary Williams and said, you got to let these guys open. This is an iconic restaurant, just like in San Antonio. And you go by there any day, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, it is packed. It's got live mariachis. It's authentic Mexican food. That's the kind of example I'm talking about.
Yes. So I don't know if you heard about the Arlington disparity study that has taken place recently. In the study, it was reported that Black-owned companies in Arlington that qualify as certified minority business enterprises were the second lowest group in utilization when it came to the city's prime and subcontracts, despite being the number one in weighted ability. How would you diagnose what seems to be a gross disparity?
Well, I really don't know how they do that. I know with the district, just from mine, I mean, we get bids. The school district's out of it. Not the school, City Council's out. We create a process that we go through all our bids and we look at the bids and we do what's the best. So I think it's important that you give everybody an opportunity to bid on it. Get involved with all the chambers, the Hispanic chamber, the Black chamber, the Greater chamber, and just get involved. And it's all about working together and just doing the best you can to you obviously got to get the best. Or the best price when it's city and Dallas or school board. So I don't know a particular way of doing it, but it needs to be looked at, obviously.
Yes, for sure. What are maybe some solutions that City Council can provide to eliminate this disparity? Involving more people in the community. Getting more people involved. It seems I've been involved in a long time, but it's kind of hard. I mean, I don't want to sound this disparity, but it's like I feel like there's an in-group and there's not. And I think everybody, and I'm not part of that group. I mean, people know me,
But it's important that everybody gets involved, every voice. We're all different. We all have to work together. So I think listening to the community. That's what elected officials are about. I'm not there to do what's for me. It's what I need to do for everybody, and that's everybody. Even though I'm elected by District 2, I want to represent everybody, and I think that's important that we all work together for the common goal, for everybody to succeed. Growing up in El Paso, I keep bringing it up, but that's what happens in El Paso. I didn't see any color, anything else in El Paso. I did not. We work together, and I see that here, but sometimes you don't, and it's I understand that.
For sure. So moving into some other community-based issues, what would you say are some of the biggest issues in Arlington that need to be addressed?
Neighborhoods, there's a lot of neighborhoods that need to be addressed. You got to have, first is safety. You got to have safety. Without safety, everybody needs to feel safe. And I underline all. So we have to make sure that we have the proper police and firefighters to keep the citizens safe. If they don't feel safe, they're going to move, and we're going to turn into those cities you read about it from the East Coast and everything else. And that's the last thing we need. Keeping neighborhoods safe, that makes neighborhood strong, and that's what builds the community. You've got to take care of your neighborhoods. You got to help the community, especially the renters and all that. Make the owners that own the rental take care of the house. It's not up to the rental people. You can say that, but we had rental houses in El Paso. They never took care of it. We did, and we had to, because that's part of the neighborhood. And it's important when you have these homeowners or apartment owners that don't take care of their apartments, and they're just slumlords, just taking the rent and not fixing. That's impossible. That's ridiculous. When I see that in Dallas, it's ridiculous. There should be more fines for that. So,
for sure. So, what is something maybe that Arlington can do more about, like renter issues or housing issues or rental properties?
Well, enforcing what we have. There's code enforcement, and you've got to enforce it. And especially when the developers, they build these projects, and they say they're going to do XXX, and they do XX, but they don't do the last X, and then they come back to City Council and say, well, we couldn't do it because this and that. No, you got to hold them to the fire. This is what the deal is. This is what we did, and that affects the entire community. And those are the types of things you have to do to make sure that, whether it's a contract or whatever, you've got to hold them to the fire. Just like when you get out of bid, if that's what they're going to do, that's what you agree to, you can't back out.
Sure. So, Arlington is looking for a new police chief. The position is open. What are some expectations that you have for a new police chief?
Obviously, somebody that has experience. Obviously, it's somebody that's that has a good reputation, somebody that understands and wants the entire community, gets the respect of the entire community. It's got to be somebody that has a good record. Somebody that's fair. I think everybody needs to be involved somehow of what we're looking at. I know I've heard they've already interviewed, so I don't know what the process is. I know there's. Everybody wants to ask questions, so, answering the questions that need to be answered, I think, is important. So with regards to what the person looks like, he or she, I just want, somebody that's got experience that understands what we deal with, that's been through it, maybe, help the city, but I think somebody with a past experience that has a proven record of what they do is important. It's important. Look what happened to Dallas. They had a police chief that just came in, and then she's gone now, and they keep going through it. My brother-in-law's a lieutenant with Dallas Police, and so he has seen it, and it's very frustrating for the police and for the citizens. It's all, and I don't want that here. I want it to work, and like I said, I want everybody to feel safe, and that we've got to get a police chief here that understands that and gets it right. I know Chief Johnson had a tough time here. We had a lot of things that happened while he was here, and that's the reason he retired. I know that's what it was. I didn't talk to him, but it's just. It's unfortunate. My kids went to Summit, and I know Mr. Taylor. He was a young man that was shot at the car dealership, and it was just very hard for all of us. It was hard for me just to see that. And we just got to avoid as much as we can, make sure it doesn't happen, and hold those. If it does happen, and it shouldn't happen, hold those people accountable. So just somebody that that understands what's going on and makes everybody feel comfortable.
So how can a new police chief coming in build a better relationship with the community and also help improve the police community with citizens around Arlington or residents around Arlington?
Well, they've done a really good job with the high schools. I know Chief Johnson with the police would come in and talk. They mentored the kids. I think it's important to have somebody that that's been here because they know what's going on. You bring somebody else from another city, they're going to change everything the way it's done, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I think the people that are here know what's happening. They know what they need. We know what the issues are, and they see it. Sometimes a new person coming in from outside has new ideas, but that scares me just because of just hearing that new ideas when seeing what other cities have done. To me, it's like, why are they leaving that city? Why are they coming over here? Especially if they're a police chief somewhere else. But if we have somebody within that could prove to do what they need to do, by all means, do that. That's what we've done with the school district. We've raised our superintendents, and they understand the system, and they're able to change what needs to be changed, to see what hasn't worked, and just go from there.
Yes. And so, just following up about the increasing crime rate in Arlington, what do you think are some causes of the increasing crime rate even before the pandemic?
Well, you know what? This is one thing that the school district's really doing. We're really doing a lot of social emotional learning, which is important, and we start at the age of 3 now. And you know what? And so it starts at the very young age. It starts in schools. When the kids misbehave, they're usually sent to the principals or whatever. What we've done now in Mansfield is we have social workers and talk to the kids, like, what's wrong? Why is this happening? Why are you acting this way? And we've already noticed a difference. So it really, when you hear about crime and everything else, it starts at a very young age, and you've got to help everybody. Once they get to a certain age and they start committing a crime, it's hard to undo that. And, put them in jail for a long time doesn't really fix it. They've got to need the help. But I think if you start at a young age, it's going to make a difference. Because everybody has a different background. And I think, having a social worker there, seeing the problems. There's a good example. I'll never forget, one of the young lady came in this class, and she slammed her books down and everything else, and just didn't pay attention to the teacher. She stood up and started yelling at her. And instead of saying, get out of here, go to the principal, she took her aside and said, what's wrong? Why are you doing this? And you know what? That student changed. And just to hear that is just, that's the way it's supposed to be done, I was lucky. I only got swatted once, but it was a joke that was not funny to my coach. But you know what? It's important because we don't know what these kids are going through when they're going to school.
Yeah, and that conversation too can help a lot. I think that's something that needs to definitely be involved more, not in just schools, but also
life.
Yeah, just
everywhere.
life. Yeah, for sure. So let me move to. So in recent years, we've seen a spotlight on low voter turnout for young adults.
Yes.
Same. What do you think, or how can City Council address the low voter turnout in Arlington?
Well, I don't know if City Council can do anything. Maybe getting them more involved, but you know what? Young people have to vote. And I think they're going to vote now with everything that's happening. They see that, they can make a difference, and that's what gives me hope, knowing that the young people are out there. I think with this whole COVID, the young people are growing up in a different environment, and they're going to think outside the box. I know my daughter, who's a teacher, is having to learn. She just started being a teacher, virtual. So you know what? She has more adaptability. So I think with everything that's happening, I think it's just like the 60s. We're at the 60s where all the young people started getting involved. And that's what's exciting about this right now. I just wish people would look at all the issues. And I wish party was not a deal, because you know what? You got to vote for the right person, and you really, really do. And just because there's a party, that doesn't mean everybody believes that way. I vote for the right person, because like I said, just because one person's a D or an R, they're not all the same. So that's big for me.
Me too, because I'm very big on just like, well, I agree with some things on this.
I know, and people, people think I'm a certain way. I'm not. You don't know me. I believe this way. I believe that. And so when I look at who's running, I want to see what it's about. Not is there an R or D. And that's what I like about City Council and school board. It's not that. They ask you, but it's not. It's about everybody, and that's the way everything should be. Political agendas should be put aside, and everybody should do what's right for the community. Not for these big companies, or not for Empower Texas, all these things. It's for everybody. Yes. Life's too short.
Very true. And how can City Council build like a better connection, I guess, with younger generations and just older generations too?
Town hall meetings. That's important. Having more town hall meetings. I know Representative Chris Turner out in South Arlington, Grand Prairie has his 4 or 5 times, and that is big. I've seen a lot of reps and senators that not have it. I know some city council members here in Arlington have had it, and we started doing that with the school board, and I think that's important, whether you go to the schools or whether you have them somewhere, but being seen in the community. That's one thing about me. If you see me anywhere, you can come up to me and talk to me and start talking about the issues, because that's how I know what questions to ask. I'm an elected official now, and I hope to be an elected official for the city, and that's how I know what questions there are. I want to be involved in the community, and I think if you get the city council to be in the community, go to these communities, go to the apartments, go to the houses, walk down the neighborhood, go to the parks, talk to people. Let people know that you really care, because to be in this position, you really got to care about everybody, and that's what I'm about, and I really believe getting people involved. But I think higher voter turnout is going to come out. I really believe that's going to start creeping up, and I hope you all continue doing what you're doing. Just having you out here and having that interview earlier this morning with a bunch of younger students also, it's exciting for me.
Mm-hmm. It is, to have that conversation too. I think people are, or at least my younger generation, or who I surround myself with, is very into politics or local government and what's going on now. So.
Well, it's important, we're all a little antsy. It seems everything's become political, from wearing a mask to, everything. And it's become, if you don't agree with me, that, we don't even talk to each other anymore. I've got relatives that don't talk to me because, that I said this or whatever. And that's not the way it's supposed to be. We're all different, and we need to, we need to work together, and that's important. Yeah, it was kind of weird. I was outside, and as I was coming in, I said, this is weird. I was the oldest guy out there. It's like, man, oh man, everybody's so young here. So at 58, I feel like I was man, yeah. I'm out.
No. What do you think are some of the biggest issues that affect, I guess, younger generations? Not in just this election, but maybe in up-and-coming elections as well.
Man, finding jobs. That's hard. Good jobs, especially now. I just don't see with the low wages that are being paid how anybody can make it. I know my kids, when they were working for restaurants and stuff, making $10, $11 an hour. I was making $3 an hour, but gas cost $5 to fill up my car. Now when you talk about 30, so it's really difficult. So, college is not for everybody. That's what high schools and grade schools, what we do in the school district in Mansfield is make sure that everybody's career ready, military ready, or school ready. And that's what is important. Get our kids ready for school. We have a career center like Arlington has, Dine Diaper, but we've had ours for over 20 years. And it's neat to see students come out that they actually have classes like this where they actually do video and they're ready to go into broadcasting, or whether they're ready to build cars, welding, whatever it is. Everybody needs to find their passion, whatever it is. And you can if you're happy and you're making a living, that's important. But I think finding good jobs, and that's why I think bringing good industry in here to give high-paying jobs for our young people to stay here is important.
Yes, very much so. Mm-hmm. And so have you heard about the charge against the city that was brought by the HUD?
With regards to the short-term rentals?
Yes, or it was like discrimination against families, I think.
That they can't use, I'm not familiar then, but I don't know which one it is.
So I believe that the HUD filed a charge against the city for discriminating against people with families with housing.
Yeah, I have not heard that at all. I heard there was a lawsuit regarding short-term rentals, that people were not able to use their property as a property owner. So I know that lawsuit, but I was not familiar with the HUD one. So I apologize.
No, you're fine.
As soon as I get out of here, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to go look.
How do you feel about maybe about this charge that was brought up against? Do you think that it's something that has evidence or has any type of...
I saw some numbers that have already come out, and they show the demographics of the city, and it's neat to see how we're all spread out. It's not one particular area that a certain ethnic group is, and I find that very refreshing. So if I see that, I don't see how that can happen. In my neighborhood, we have all type of ethnic groups, but I know it happens. Don't get me wrong. I would be foolish to say that it doesn't happen in some areas, but with regards to HUD, I don't know to the extent. If there's obviously something there, HUD's going to find it and hopefully take care of it. I can assure you, if I'm in city council and somebody says that to me, I'm going to look into it because it's important. We can't have that. Like I said, my dad growing up in the projects. Those projects they're the same projects my dad grew up in the 40s, and they need to be worked on. So.
When was the last time that you were in El Paso?
I used to go twice a year, and the last time I was there was tragically, my cousin was killed by a drunk driver, but it was a year and a half ago on Thanksgiving. So the last time was not a good time. Yeah. That was the only time. That's okay. Call me Debbie Downer. Sorry about that. But when you said El Paso going, it's like, that's the last time.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I do have one last question for you. Where would you like to see Arlington by the time that you leave office if you were elected to be in city council?
I would like it that it's a place that people could go to school and grow up here, have a job, have a career, raise their family, and then when you get older, that you can find a place to retire, a smaller home, be able to afford a house, everything's working for the city, that we all work together, and that everybody's happy as best as you can be. The difference, like I said, there's a difference for cities and school districts. There's the wants and the needs. You've got to feel the needs of the people. You can't worry about the wants. The needs is the most important thing. If you don't have happy people that work hard, that's what makes the city. I mean, the city of Arlington is not, city council. It's every one of us in this room. Yes, for sure. So, just, that's what it's about.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. Is there anything else that you want to say to the viewers out here?
No, just, what, it's, if you haven't voted, be sure and vote. It's very important. Your voice is, people think it doesn't matter, that it doesn't make a difference. It does make a difference. Even if your candidate doesn't vote, I tell people when they're running, every candidate that runs, I've always thanked them every single time and said, you know what, thank you for running because you brought up some issues that people don't think about, and it's important that we all work together. But if there's people out there that want to get involved, they need to get involved. I think it's important to get involved in your schools, get involved in your church. It all starts all together, working together. So.
And where can people find more information from you, or where can they contact you at?
I've got a Facebook page. Personal is Raul Gonzalez, RaulGonzalez. Then I got a school board page, Raul Gonzalez, Mansfield ISD. And then I've got a city council page, Raul H. Gonzalez for city council. And I got myself, 469-556-1269. All my cards have my cell number because if I'm an elected official, I need to be available no matter what. So once again, it's 469-556-1269. And that's a real number, and I do, I've returned every call, email in my 10 years as a school board, and I plan to do that as city council.
Good. Is there certain times that people can't call you?
I go to bed at 8 o'clock because I'm at work at 4. Oh, wow. So if you call me at 8, you can leave a message, but, I'm not going to call you at 4, but I'll say, sorry, I missed your call. Call me when you have a chance. So, yeah, but I don't have good cell coverage in downtown Dallas, but when I go to lunch, I get it, and that's when I usually make the calls.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. This is fun.
Yes, thank you.